All right, guys, we are live. This is a completely new setup here, not nearly as high tech, but I'm sure something is wrong. So if you guys can let us know in the comments how we sound.
Go ahead and take a drink, because I'm sure.
Yeah, where's my drink?
Yeah, you get your drink on. I didn't grab a drink. Man, you got the shandy. Those are pretty good.
This was the only beer in the whole fridge.
Yeah?
I tried to get it before you.
I think there's cans of beer, but that's a like a lemonade beer. Pretty good.
Let's see. Sound is perfect. Oh my gosh, what's the chance everything can just work right off the bat? I mean, we have the most simple solution ever here.
Yeah, if this doesn't work, then shoot us in the head.
Yes, we are currently in Charleston.
Right outside this door is COVID Central. I've been told by many people and many news reports and media everywhere that we are in the #1 hotspot in the country. In the United States, although Chile might debate this, Brazil might debate it, the United States is the hotspot and the biggest hotspot in the world, which makes us in the biggest hotspot on the planet.
In the universe.
In the universe.
Well, you know, it's
galaxy.
funny. Someone sent me a list of the 5 biggest hotspots in America. And it was Orlando, Tampa, Jacksonville, all Florida, Charleston, South Carolina, and somewhere in Texas.
It's like San Antonio?
San Antonio. I flew into Orlando.
Yes.
I then traveled to Tampa for 3 days. I then traveled to Jacksonville. I then came to Charleston, and then I went to Asheville. So I literally went to 4 of the 5 most potent coronavirus hotspots on planet Earth. And we went from total lockdown to, in Puerto Rico, where we were doing nothing. Literally groceries coming into our homes were being wiped down, to Katie and I going to theme parks, water parks, hotels, restaurants, Ubers, buses, rental cars.
It's like being in prison, maybe even on death row, and then suddenly you're free. You're exonerated, and you're like,
I'm going to go back to jail.
What do I do with the rest of my life? I'm going to hit up everything.
Yeah, so...
Well, I went to Alabama, and I think I missed, we interacted for maybe 10 hours. You came into the house, we had dinner with David outside, we were safe, and then I got out of there. So my goal was always to see my parents having quarantined.
Yeah.
And I feel like I did that pretty well, although I saw you for a few hours.
Yeah, well, gosh, we have so much to talk about. Obviously, guys, with this very simple setup that we have here, we don't have the ability to flip cameras and share video clips and stuff. But, probably one of the big pieces of news was that I got tested. Before I saw you and you saw your parents, and then before I saw my parents, I wanted to know that I didn't get the virus in Orlando and Tampa, the 2 worst places in the world.
So where did you get tested?
So when I was in Orlando, they had free testing sites all over the place. I was like, perfect. When we're done with the parks and we're going to Tampa, I'm just going to drive through one of these quick little drive-thrus, it's going to be easy.
Yep.
It was the longest line of cars I have ever seen in my entire life.
It was like one of those food bank things we've had on the show where people were just waiting hours to get bread.
It was insanity. And if you guys want to look this up, look up, I think it's Orlando Convention Center coronavirus testing or whatever. They have helicopter footage of this line. So Katie and I, we're driving away from it, and we're like, what are all these cars doing over here? Because we weren't even near the convention center. And the convention center is huge, and it has its own parking lot. So you'd think maybe the parking lot will fill up. This was miles of traffic to get to the parking lot. So I don't know how many hours you'd have to wait in line. Maybe it was a 5-hour, 10-hour wait to get the test. So I said, screw it. So
that was the reasonable thing to do.
Yeah. So I went to Tampa, and I just started calling around places, and I got a place that said we do normal testing and antibody testing, which is what I wanted. But they were like, our prices are pretty ridiculous, just to warn you. And I said, what's the price? And I think the normal test was $180, and then the antibody test was 125. So I was like, no, I want to do it. I'm curious to know, especially the antibodies. So I pay to do it, and I'm supposed to see my family in like 6 days from that point. And they told me that it's supposed to be a 3-day turnaround, but worst case, it'll be 5 days because they're backed up. Fast forward 8 days, and they finally have my results. So I had already potentially infected you. I had already been with my parents. I was finally to the point where when I talked to them, I was going to say, can I please have my money back? Because this test is 100% pointless.
Yeah.
If I'm going to spend $180 to know if I have it, and then interact with people for 8 days before you tell me if I have it or not, what's the point of that? So I have recently talked to a few friends in town who have gotten it, and then their friends have gotten it, and they said it's a very similar situation. One of them said his employee got it, and it took 10 days to receive the info. And then his employee was like, well, do you want to get tested now? And he's like, what's the point? If it takes 10 days, I'll be recovered by then or dead.
Yeah.
So he just said, I'm not going to even bother.
Do you think it's like that if you're in another part of the world? I'd be curious to know if the turnaround on tests has been like this elsewhere. Because I'm hearing this too, like MUSC, I actually have a test that I'm about to look at right now live on camera. I had to donate blood, and if you donated blood, you would get a free antibody test only if you gave like a pint of blood. So David, who works here, went and did it after me, and his veins locked up, and he didn't give a pint. So they were like, sorry, you can still donate the blood, but we can't do the antibody test. And I've never donated blood before. I wasn't even sure I could donate blood because I'm on this Humira drug and all this stuff, but you have to sit there for like 8 minutes just squeezing a ball while like a pint of blood comes out of you. It's a lot.
8 minutes?
8 minutes just sitting there, and there's a machine that's just like pulling blood out of it. It's like a little, I'm not great with blood, but.
No, I don't like it. And when I gave the blood for my antibody test, they had to just take a little vial. But a few years ago, I gave blood, and it had to be maybe 2 or 3 vials, so it wasn't much. And I passed out, and they couldn't wake me up. And it was like past lunchtime, and I hadn't had anything to eat or drink that day, so I think I don't know, I was just lightheaded. But when they finally woke me up with smelling salts and stuff, the nurse was like, it's okay, a lot of men are nervous. And I'm like, I'm not going to tell you that I like getting blood drawn, but I didn't pass out of fear. And she was like, it's okay. And I'm like, no, you can prick me again right now. I'm not passing out because of fear. And she's like, there's nothing to be ashamed of. So she totally believed that I was just fearful for my life.
People are saying 2 to 4 days, 24 hours, 48 hours, different states, different countries. When I gave the blood, I'm sitting there, I'm starting to find a way out because I didn't realize I had to give a pint of blood. And so I'm like, I'm on Humira, like I'm doing anything, and I'm thinking like, if Kristen gets tested and comes back negative, then I'm negative.
That's good enough.
But I was like, I got to get out of this, right? So I'm trying to, they're like, have you traveled to any countries?
Are you already like you?
No, I'm doing all the questionnaires. There's like this huge questionnaire, it's all this stuff like, have you had sex anally with anyone who charges money for sex in the last 4 months? And I'm like, should I answer yes to that? I don't know. So she's like, how many countries have you been to? One of the questions is, have you been to other countries in the last like 3 years? And so I'm like, yes. And I have no idea where I've been the last 3 years. Like I'm racking my brain trying to think of everything. So I go through all these countries, and she's like, those are all good. You're fine. I'm like, okay. And she says that, like after I'm clear to go, and she's like, all right, come over here. And I'm like, how long before I'll get the results? And she's like, MUSC is doing the test results, and normally it's 7 days. But I think it's going to be about 3 weeks now. And I'm like, what is the point? That would be about now that I'd be getting a test result.
You would have died 2 weeks ago.
What's the point of these tests? But the alternative to giving the blood, I went to another place to have a blood study, and they were just like, there's a huge waiting list. You can stay inside the hospital here, the little clinic, and wait with all these sick people.
Yeah.
Or you can put your name in, and we'll call you in about 2 hours. And I'm thinking, 2 hours? So that's when I ran to give the blood, and they were able to see me instantly, and so then I just canceled the other appointment. So that test I have here. I have yet to look at it. I do not know what the result is. But then in the meantime, I was like, I can't wait 3 weeks to get this result. I went to another doc-in-a-box place, and I had the nasal swab.
Which deep or the
It wasn't that deep. I mean, they went up to, about the bridge of your nose.
Okay.
I don't feel like it was in like the back of my head.
When it starts going back down, that's the deep one.
Yeah, so they just went up twice, and that result came back negative. And then the antibody test, which was very similar to what you did in Puerto Rico, came back negative 5 minutes there on the spot.
Okay.
But I'm still hearing a lot of people saying, like here in Charleston, they're like, do not go to CVS. That test is garbage, and it's the same sort of test that you had.
The little plastic one.
So I don't even know if these tests are valid anywhere in the United States, or is companies like CVS just like, hey, let's just offer these. Who cares if they're accurate, and we'll just make money doing these inaccurate tests. So did you mention what your results were?
Negative for both.
You were negative for both. Okay,
Yeah.
so here is my COVID test from the blood connection. And I believe if I click this, it's going to tell me my blood results. Negative. So neither you nor I, as of like a week ago or so, 10 days ago, have had COVID. And we've had
Sons of bitches.
We've had a lot of tests. I've had 3 now. You've had 2?
Yeah. Well, there was something I read online. I'm going to keep lying to myself, and damn it, I had it. Well, there's two little bits of data that I cling to. One of them is that there was some study that said swine flu was close enough that if you have recovered from swine flu, you may be immune to COVID-19. And
were people saying that on our show before we ended? Was that like 3 or 4 weeks ago?
yeah, I mean, maybe people were saying it, but I also read it somewhere.
Okay.
And swine flu was going around the United States at the beginning of this year, and I was really sick in January. So I'm hoping that maybe there's something there. The other interesting bit of information, and I can't remember the details of what it's called, but this doctor was saying that the antibody test may only show antibodies, or your body may only have antibodies for 3 months after you get sick. But it's not the antibodies that actually make you immune to COVID. It's something else, like T cells or something. I can't remember.
Yeah, so this is a narrative that I feel like the media has been pushing right around the time we stopped our show. I saw a lot of news articles that were saying, and even with this blood bank thing that I did, I'm reading a lot of literature that's saying if you test positive for antibodies, that does not mean that you're immune to COVID. And I'm thinking, what? Like, I even asked one of the doctors, and he's like, yeah, I don't know what that means, because if you have the antibodies, you should be immune to it. But one of the narratives is that we don't know how long these antibodies stay in your blood. And that is true. But the other half that they don't quite explain is that your body typically, in most cases, now there's some viruses that your body doesn't do this, but in most cases, your body creates, like, I don't know if it's B cells or T cells, but they have a memory to where once you're reinfected with a virus, your body can then start to make antibodies on the spot that will then protect you.
That's what I've got.
So it's kind of like fear-mongering when they're like, the antibodies might only last for 3 or 4 months, and then we're all doomed. And you're like, no, that's not always how the body responds, you know?
Okay.
So we're hoping, and I don't know that we know yet, but I mean, goodness, we're into almost August now. You would hope that after 8-9 months of dealing with this, that we would start to know, well, what's going on in these other countries that had COVID way before us.
Yeah.
But it feels like we still have no idea what's really going on. The more I talk to doctors and read articles, it feels like we really still have a lot of lack of concrete information. And that is so frustrating to me.
I know. That's very frustrating. Let's get caught up on these super chats here. Sorry, I got them off camera here. I can't. We've got iPads and we can see the live chat as it goes, but only on the laptop does YouTube allow you to see the list of super chats. It's incredibly frustrating. Chad D says, really happy to see you gents. Welcome back. Hope all is well. You picked the worst time to leave. There's more going on in the world right now than ever. I know. I kind of feel, I don't know if that's true or not. The interesting thing is that I feel like in Puerto Rico, we were more freaked out than the majority of people in the United States. because in the United States, for the most part, people just kind of kept living their lives a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, and you're not trapped on an island. You know, you could get out and drive somewhere. Like people were going boating or buying an RV and going to parks and stuff. Like they were just doing stuff. Whereas in Puerto Rico, it was illegal to leave your house.
Yeah.
Unless it was for food or doctor.
I mean, we were dealing with every other day, depending on your license plate. You can go to the grocery store, and then I'm talking about grocery shopping here with my sister in Charleston, and she's like, no one's wearing a mask, no one cares, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
So it feels like the roles have reversed. I don't know what it's like in Puerto Rico. There's some articles coming out that make it sound like Puerto Rico's in a much worse shape than what anyone was admitting.
Wait, virus-wise?
I think so. Just how few tests they've done and that they're growing exponentially like everywhere else. But I also feel like it can't totally be true because we really were locked down more so than anywhere else.
Yeah.
But it's hard to know without the tests, and if the tests are delayed, and now I'm sure we'll talk about this in a minute, what does all the testing mean? You know, we're having these record numbers, but we're also doing record numbers of testing.
Yeah, if we just stopped testing, the virus would have gone away by now.
Didn't Trump say that like 2 weeks ago?
I think he says it every other day. Leonard says, we only wonder, WTF, they were thinking by visiting the mainland and any theme park, so here's a little contribution to F-Stopper's ICU fund. Thank you very much. I can go into detail about our theme park experience. It was actually incredibly positive. Jan says, never leave again. It's been so dark and cold. Thank you. It's been dark and cold without you guys, too. Leonessa says, I was tested on Friday for the upper endoscopy. Is that how you pronounce it? I was supposed to have this Wednesday.
Endoscopy.
What?
Endoscopy?
Yeah, that sounds more intelligent. I was supposed to have this Wednesday. I got the results today. My procedure is canceled.
Well, you know, I'm supposed to have a colonoscopy, which is the other direction.
Wait. Is she suggesting she has it?
I was tested on Friday for the upper, I don't know. I think she's saying she needs an elective procedure. And I got the results today, and my procedure, I don't exactly know what that means.
It sounds like she
has
has
COVID?
it. Let us know if you have it or not.
Well, if you have COVID, I would imagine you can't do kind of it's not really a surgery, but an elective procedure. But I'm supposed to have a colonoscopy a week from this coming Thursday, I believe. And, you know, all my friends here are like, all the hospitals are shut down and they're doing no elective surgeries and everything.
ICU is overloaded.
And I'm like, maybe that's true in the big hospitals that have ICUs, but where I'm going to have a colonoscopy is a clinic that only really does that. So I haven't heard anything yet about that being canceled. I'm a little nervous about being in a hospital setting like that, but I feel like that's one reason I'm here is to have that procedure done.
Yeah. Wyatt says, I work in the Mayo Clinic in Minnesota. Turnaround time is about 6 to 8 hours. Got tested twice, and it wasn't too bad. Yeah, my dad actually has been tested in the Mayo Clinic in Jacksonville, Florida, and he said it was, but he got results within like 2 hours or
One
something.
thing we're hearing about Puerto Rico is that they are supposed to be doing a mandate here on Wednesday, I think, Thursday, where when you fly in, you have to have a molecular test. I'm not quite sure what qualifies for that. And you have to have been tested negative in the last 48 to 72 hours to be allowed into the island. Or they're going to do...
I don't think that's true. I think you would just you were allowed, I mean, if you live there, they have to let you in, but you have to quarantine for 2 weeks if you test positive.
Why are you guys trying to get back before this deadline?
Okay, so the way I understand it, and I certainly could be wrong, but I think Puerto Rico says when you come in past July 15th, you must stand in line and get a test at the airport, which you know is going to be a crappy show. So we don't want to do that. But then they are saying the results of that test do not even matter, and you must quarantine for 14 days unless you go and get a molecular test somewhere else at some lab, because probably they're doing some like quick test in the airport.
I was hoping it's not the 6 to 8 hour test that they're talking about here.
I mean,
are they just going to do a little prick test and see if you have the antibodies?
I don't know.
Because I haven't heard of a test that's
I mean, there should be a 15-minute test, like with some little white box. I've seen this.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because the swab test is taking hours to do. I think it's Singapore or South Korea we had on the show months ago. They were making the patients sit outside while those results were coming back, but it was still hours.
Oh, really?
I believe so.
Well, I just don't want to. I just don't want to be around that. And the way to get out of all of that is to have test results from the last 72 hours that say you're clear.
Which is still ridiculous, right? Because you were just on a plane and in multiple airports.
That's partly true, but I think the most ridiculous part is I literally spent $300 for tests and it took 8 days.
Yeah.
So it's literally impossible for me to pay for a test and it to legally work in Puerto Rico when I fly back in.
You could take the test that I did. That came back within a few hours.
Was that the antibody test?
You might not have time now.
Is that the antibody test?
Antibody test was instant, but then the nasal swab test, I think I got that back in like 2 or 3 days. So maybe it's on the cusp.
Yeah, it's on the cusp. Let's see.
Why can you not just say, I live here, I'm going to quarantine regardless, let me through, I'm going to go to my
Because I don't
home.
want to quarantine.
But isn't that just a recommendation? They're not actually doing any of this. People were telling me that when we flew into Orlando. Florida is not letting people in the state, and you're going to have to quarantine. And then I get into Orlando with Disney World, and like they have a hotel built into that airport. No one said a word about COVID. No one mentioned anything to me. There was no signs. I just walked to the airport, got my luggage, and went on my own way.
I know, it is funny. Like, you see this stuff on the news about how, like, Florida's stopping people at the border and asking where they've been, and I'm like, but we just flew in and
My
they didn't care.
parents said that did happen, but if you owned property, you could go down there. But then I was thinking, there are so many county roads to get into Florida. There's no way you could patrol that.
I know.
So I don't still know what the truth is there. Maybe if somebody's from Florida and experienced this, maybe like 95 or I-10 or something did have a checkpoint. But I think the quarantine thing, it's not even, is that even constitutional? Or is it like a suggestion? The only place I've heard is New Zealand. They're saying you fly in, you have to stay in a designated quarantine hotel for 14 days.
No matter what?
I believe so. But everywhere else, it just feels like we're telling you to quarantine, but who knows if you'll actually do that.
All right, Logan says, everyone smash the like button. It helps the algorithm. Yeah, everybody, smash that like button. We've got 6,000 subscribers. We're killing it. Mike says, we have missed you. What stocks do you guys have insight on? What is so funny? What is so funny?
I think you know what's so funny. You still got your Tesla short out there?
Yes. Yes, I do.
Tesla's at like $1,500 right now. It's like double whatever it was when you shorted it.
I know. It's so bad.
What drone photography insight do you guys have?
How are you reading this?
It's just on my iPad.
Like you're just scrolling up and...
Yeah, I'm just trying to keep up with the chats, but they will just...
All right, so my number one stock tip, don't short Tesla ever. Never.
What's so ironic is you've been like a Tesla fanboy and buying the stock, and you were like this, you were almost like Mike Kelly. Mike Kelly is like, buy the stock, hold it, never let it go.
I know.
And he's riding up to the moon. You were kind of like that, but then for some reason you were like, it's gone parabolic and I have to short it now. Yeah. And I'm like, that does seem like a reasonable thing. Yeah. Very rarely do stocks skyrocket and stay up. But then somehow Tesla like doubled down and is even higher.
Yeah.
I'm going to get up and turn this little light off that cuts on every 30 minutes. So what is your...
So I shorted Tesla, I think it's 650. And it went up to 1,000. And Katie was giving me crap about it because I had lost, I don't know what percentage that is, 20, 30%. Then it went down to 300 something. So I had made like 50% on my money. And Katie was like, sell now. And I said, no, Tesla's going to 150. And now Tesla is 10 times that at 1,500. So I have lost a lot of money. And then, you know, it's funny how herd mentality works, just like the psychology of everything. Because Elon Musk did some, I don't know if it was an interview, but it was for some sort of like AI convention or something. It's just him talking at a desk. And he once again starts talking about how he believes, you know, he will have all of the puzzle pieces for full self-driving complete by the end of this year. I think he might have said that at the end of 2019 and 2018, but like...
He just said something like a week ago, right? That he has a full autonomous car now, or believes he does?
I mean, they've released footage of their software doing it.
Yeah.
But anyway, you watch this, and it's Elon Musk. I mean, he's like my hero. And then you see him launching rockets with humans to the space station and stuff, and I'm like, I mean, if he can shoot humans to the space station, I do think he can figure this out. I do feel like Tesla is overvalued at the moment, and I do truly believe an economic collapse is coming. I truly believe it. But when you see him speak with so much confidence and you read the comments, all the comments were like, imagine the stock price when he really releases like the update to the car that's truly autonomous. And I'm like, oh my God, they're right. Like it could go to 150,000 a share. Like who knows if he literally can do that.
Yeah.
Now I think
it's not going to be an overnight
thing.
Yeah,
I think we're years away.
We're going to see it, but then the governments are going to say we can't do it, or there's going to be hiccups where it'll work, but like we have to implement something in the streets and the towns, and there's going to be a roadmap, I think, to get there.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's going to be like, oh my gosh, the stock is now $4,000 because this thing happened overnight.
Yeah.
But it's going to potentially grow towards that.
Yeah. So when I read that stuff, I'm like, man, I got to just get out of this. But then I'm like, no, I can't get out at the top. Mm-hmm. That's the worst time to get out. And this crash is coming. I'm riding it. I'm riding it down.
Well, we have about 2 or 3 weeks. I haven't really kept up with the news, but 2 or 3 weeks until all of this unemployment ends. I was telling you this story the other day. I was in a Uber, and I was saying, like, man, I'm in the nicest Uber ever. I'm in, like, some Escalade that I paid just for a regular Uber. And the guy was telling me, oh, yeah, every Uber driver is sitting at home right now. He says here in South Carolina, for Uber, you were paid about $125, $175 a week for unemployment. And he said, plus the $600 the government is giving, you're making, is it $600 a week or $600 a month?
Week. Yeah.
He said these Uber drivers are making over $700 a week to sit at home. And he's like, we never could have made that ever in a week driving here in Charleston.
With the expenses and everything.
Yeah, and so, I'm just thinking in 2 weeks, as far as I know, that is going to end.
I
think
to imagine they're extending it.
You would have to believe so. I don't know. I haven't kept up with the news, so I don't know. But I just keep thinking, I've been saying this back when we did the show, that once that happens in 2 weeks, going into August, that's going to be a big moment. It's like August, and then I believe it was October, is the big periods where there's these certain breaks for companies and tax incentives and PPP money and all of this stuff. So I'm curious to see what happens, but I don't know the market just keeps going up, and the more I'm listening to these stock blogs and podcasts, they're all just saying that, like, companies like Amazon, Amazon killed it. Did you see how much they've been up since the pandemic?
No.
They're up like 45%.
Not as much up as Tesla.
But the point is just like these companies, they are going to survive, but other companies are going to be put out of business. You're going to have bankruptcies, and then you're going to have huge companies like Microsoft, the FANG stocks. Microsoft, Apple, all these companies are going to buy all of this intellectual property when it's going bankrupt, and they're just going to grow bigger and bigger and bigger. And I'm thinking, man, it's a perfect example. You didn't buy into the market, you've missed out tons. I sold half of the market, half of my position, lost tons of gains. And I'm just thinking, like, man.
We both played it as dumb. No, you played it as dumb as you could. I just played it dumb.
I don't know. People are saying with inflation about to, like, really balloon up, like, holding cash could be the absolute worst thing you could do.
Time will tell.
You got to get in the market, man. But you won't because you feel like it's too high right now.
Oh, yeah. I'm definitely not getting in the market. 42010D says, Lee, do you rent Patrick's place? My wife says yes. Do you know who this guy is?
Who?
42010Ds?
I don't.
So F Stoppers rents Patrick's entire house. So Patrick has a house that's through this wall that's a normal house, but we are currently sitting in a reconditioned daycare that's attached to your house.
Yeah. So this is the main studio that we filmed a lot of our videos the last 4 or 5 years, maybe?
Yeah. So I, like, we're paying a decent amount of money a month to you, and during this pandemic, it's been a total waste for me, not for you. David hasn't even been coming in here. Like, the whole reason why we rented your house was, one, like, we'd have a place to come back to, but two, and more importantly, David was going to fly people in and then film projects with them. And
we thought we could have 2 different studios working.
Yeah.
This one here would have, instead of having to book hotels for talent, they just stay in the house, and then they could film right here. That would be the most efficient way ever. But now with the pandemic and everything, it's like nobody's been flying here. It's just kind of been sitting here, which is a shame.
Yeah. So I have been trying to convince you, because this office is
Not nice.
I like to say it's embarrassing. I don't like people to come over here. It's dirty and gross, and it's just not professional. So I've been trying to convince you for the last 2 years, but now even harder, to like demolish this and build it up nice.
I would like to build this nice.
You need to do it anyway.
I just don't. I've been thinking about it a lot. And I'm like, I don't know where I would put all of this stuff. And then I'm scared to hire a contractor to do some basic, like, stud work. Just build this thing, like, make this a nice box that we can then do more with.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I don't know that I like doing that when I'm not here. Because I
you
feel
could
like
just
they're
come back. You could come back and check it out. Like, I'm just going to go back for a week
What
or
if
two.
there's COVID, though? Like, I'm not going to come back for another 6 months. I'm going to be in Puerto Rico the whole
Dude,
rest
you're
of the
here.
year.
You flew back at the height of the most dangerous city in the world. You flew back here for no reason, just to hang out.
No, I wanted to see my parents, and I had to get a colonoscopy. Those were the 2 big reasons.
Trust me, I'm sure if you want your butt probed, they'll do it in 6 months from now, too.
I may not be able to get blood, depending on who I pay for the butt probing. But yeah, I like the idea of this place just being renovated while I'm not here.
Yeah, because I mean, every time people build a house or renovate something, it's a nightmare. They're like, it's the worst experience of my whole life.
Yeah, and that's why I don't want to do it remotely. That's
the best. Like, you can just forget about it and just like go to the beach, and it'll just, they'll tell you it'll be 6 months. It's going to be a year and 2 months. Just go with the flow.
And then I was thinking, what should I do? Should I build this out so that it could be a livable space? Or do I just put the floor in all the way across, get rid of all the walls, maybe have a couple structural walls?
I think we need some walls.
Yeah?
Yeah, because I think you're going to want to like have people. I think people could potentially work in here. This could become like an office, and then in there have it really big, but with one. Like, you want a couple extra spaces so that you could film 2 things at once.
Yeah, but I was just thinking if they did the whole floor and just made it an open area first, and had little areas for plumbing to where it'd be easy to get to if you needed to really build this out like a home.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, then we would say, like, okay, where do we need offices and where do we need like recording studios? And we could almost build like walls that were kind of like what's already in here. But anyway, there's already 2 strains, and we don't know how many long you're immune for. I've heard this a lot too, especially in some of the market podcasts I've been listening to. And one guy was saying, he was asking, why do you feel like the market has responded the way that it has? What does the market know looking forward? That's typically what the stock market does. What are they seeing in the future that is making the stock market rally to all-time highs for many companies? How does it make any sense? And one guy was saying there's a lot of research coming out of China, which has an asterisk next to it. How valid is that? But they were saying a lot of research is coming out of places like Italy that had, still to this day, a 10% death rate. And they were saying the people that are going in the ICU, or the people that are just going into the hospitals in Italy and in China, are not having the same viral load that they did 4 and 5 months ago.
I get all that.
And so suddenly maybe the virus has already mutated, and maybe what we're seeing here in America right now, I mean, I think 4 days ago our death rate just started to finally change direction. But that's been a month after the change in direction of the cases. For a full month, everyone has been saying the cases are skyrocketing in America.
Every day you go to the news, and that's all they say.
And I was saying, well, when are the deaths? Because the deaths were hitting all-time lows, like, for months. You know, it was like 200 people died 6 days ago. But it's been a month-long delay, and we've been told for so long that it takes 14 to 28 days for people to start dying. And I was like, well, we're at a month now, and the death number has not changed directions.
Yeah.
It finally has changed directions right after the 4th of July. So in the last week, it's starting to tick upward. But there's still this narrative that maybe the virus in America or the virus around the world is not nearly as deadly as it was when everyone in New York was dying and everyone in Italy and Spain was dying. What's happening in Chile and Peru feels very different than what's happening in the rest of the world, right? I mean, so there's this debate of like what's really happening with the virus. Is it as deadly as it once was? Are we all getting the same strain? The strain that we are getting, are we immune to all of them once we've had them? I feel like these answers should be very easy to give the public from the scientific community, but there's still a lot of gray areas here.
But like I have always said, I don't care if the virus is eradicated tomorrow and not a single other death ever comes of this virus. I still expect an economic collapse. How can you have 30% unemployment? How can you have so many businesses closing? I mean, I just talked to a photographer today who told me he just went through a bankruptcy. I've talked to friends who own restaurants, and they're like, "Yeah, dude, I've had to close down my restaurant. I just can't afford it." Everyone.
Have you been down King Street?
Yes, it's crazy down there.
Everything's boarded up because of the riots.
Yeah.
That one night of riots. Luckily, Charleston just had one night. I can't imagine some of these towns that have had multiple nights of that. But everything's boarded up, and you can't tell if stuff's open. Sometimes things are open, but like, you know, capacity is at 25%. You know, restaurants that have big parking lots are kind of lucky because they can put tables out there and serve people outside. But I'm just thinking, there is no way the service industry is going to survive this.
I do not get it, and I just think it's that's the first domino to fall, and then as people start losing their jobs, people will just stop spending money, and all the servers who have been making more money by remaining on unemployment will try to get a job and it won't exist. All the Uber people will come back the second that money stops, and the Uber market will be flooded with cars, but nobody to drive anywhere.
Yeah.
And I just think that's what's going to happen. But I've certainly been wrong before. I don't know if I told you about the Tesla short position.
Well, I've also, I had a photographer friend of mine, who was telling me their parents just bought a house 2 weeks ago. They just closed on it. I literally walked into the house. I don't think his parents had even been there yet. And he said in Charleston 3 weeks ago, they recorded the largest number of home sales in the history of Charleston ever.
I don't get it.
And I'm thinking, how is the housing market doing so well? Some people are saying, oh, it's all these northerners and people from big cities that are trying to get out of big cities. Charleston's not, I don't know, maybe it's small if you live in a multi-million person city. But homes are selling like crazy. I'm seeing all my neighbors' houses selling for 2 times what I paid for my house. And I'm like, this is insanity.
Yeah.
And some of these houses are not nice. There's a house across the street from me that sold for twice of what my house I bought it for, and it was 70% complete. They still had to go in there and like put toilets and bathrooms and stuff in. And I'm thinking, this is crazy. How is the housing market doing this?
And your house is like double the size of that house.
Maybe. That house is a really big house. It's a 3-story home.
Leah Nessa says, yes, I tested positive. You got to give us more information on this. Now I'm so curious. I mean, do you have symptoms? Did you have symptoms? Do you think that you already recovered and you have antibodies, or you currently have it and you're getting worse? I'm very curious. She lives in Charleston, right?
Yes. Is that who this is? Yep.
Glad to see you guys are back. I'm working on a huge oil industry project with contractors who had a massive outbreak, and I'm nervous. We've had deaths. Man, I'm sorry to hear that. We are friends with someone in town here who, I don't know if he's like a part owner in a very big restaurant here.
Yep.
And he got it. And I was talking to him, and he was telling me, he was like, Lee, everyone in the food industry in Charleston has it. Everyone has it. And I said, oh my gosh, like, has anyone died? Has it been that bad? And he said he was sick for 2 weeks. But he said it wasn't that bad for him. He said he just really felt kind of tired, but he's definitely felt much sicker in the past. And he said out of everyone he knows, that is mostly young people working in the food and bev industry, he said no one has had it that bad. And I just talked to my brother-in-law yesterday. He said he has 6 friends who have had it. He said none of them have had it longer than 3 days. Like, they felt fine after day 3.
Yeah.
So
That's the other big narrative, though, that I feel like is being pushed at us. And I don't know if these are true or not. You remember when the narrative was that young people are getting it at record levels. Here's a, like, infant and stuff. And then you look it up, and it's like there's been 15 infant deaths in the entire United States or something crazy.
right.
And so the one that I hear a lot now that I'm seeing on the news sites is that people are saying it's not that bad and I didn't get that sick, but the long-term complications are really, really bad. And I'm like, I just don't know if that's true or if that's them just trying to make you fearful, you know?
Yeah.
I did read on a subreddit here in Charleston a guy who was like, hey, everyone who's got COVID, let's share our stories. There weren't that many of them. But 2 of the guys on the thread were saying, like, I've lost my sense of taste and smell for 3 months. I can't smell or taste anything. Like, I can put bleach under my nose, and I cannot smell that is dangerous for me.
That's pretty creepy.
Yeah.
It's pretty creepy. And I've heard, you know, some people think that it has to do with, like, the tongue.
Yeah.
But I've heard some doctors say that they think it's, like, issues with the brain. And it's doing stuff to the blood and the blood flow to the brain, and it's, like, messing with the
gosh.
smell area of the brain. So, I mean, that's scary stuff. Derek says Tesla is being added to the S&P 500. It's not going down soon. It's also increasingly being valued as a tech company, which it should be. Yeah, I don't know. There's just so much about Tesla. I agree that, like, could go to the moon. I want a Tesla. It's my favorite car company. But I don't know if you saw, Tesla has started refunding people for their solar roofs that I was super excited about. Like, that's starting to look a little bit more scammy.
Yeah. I was
mean,
super excited about that. I mean, just a couple years ago, I thought we might be building homes on this land.
Yeah.
And I was like, we got to get solar roofs.
Yeah.
Tiles, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's not happening anymore?
No, it's happening, but
not anywhere
maybe
in the-
just for people in California, like everyone else is getting refunded after years of waiting. And then the whole Solar City thing, that was always kind of scammy. Like, they weren't always the most upstanding company, and then Tesla bought them because it was somehow related or whatever, and apparently they paid too much. So I don't know. And then, you know, Tesla is supposed to have the Roadster come out this year, and they said, oh, it's probably going to be 2 or 3 more years, and who knows when the Semi is going to come out. So I just feel like it's all hype at the moment. And I'm hyped. I'm excited for Tesla, but not for $1,500 a share. Sam says, Lee, best advice. The Fed will not let the market crash in an election year. Will dip end of July, then rally into the election, then possibly crash long. Now, when he says long at the end of this statement, does that mean he's long?
I think that means he's like, buy in now and don't let go.
Oh, hell no. No way. I'm definitely not. I mean, we're at all-time highs in the middle of a pandemic. Why would any person ever buy right now? We're in the middle of a pandemic, and it's getting worse in many places around the United States.
But what if it gets better?
We're already at all-time highs.
But imagine if we say deaths are going down and we've definitely gotten out of the worst of it.
Sure.
The market's going to go even higher.
Why?
Because it's new, like it's looking towards the future, and you're like, it's not as bad. We're going to get back to work.
It doesn't. But you should just look at the value of the market before all of this, and I would say we had a much stronger economy before the virus. So what was the market worth then? And that's
I think
the
too,
most it should
the
be
S&P
worth.
500 is so heavily weighted on these huge tech companies. And what they're doing, this goes back to like people are always saying like Amazon isn't paying their fair share in taxes. Well, what Amazon is doing, I just listened to a podcast about this yesterday. They are buying all of this tech, and they're able to write off these acquisitions that year as a loss. We will buy TikTok for billion, whatever it is, and they will keep gathering all of this intellectual property that they can write off, and on paper, they are saying we have zero income. So they're not paying taxes, just like a photographer is not going to pay taxes if you buy the new Canon R5. You buy a bunch of them, you're going to say, I took a loss this year, It's what everybody does. But what's happening is these massive companies are getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and they might not see the income right now, but they will eventually. and they make up such a huge part of the S&P 500 that I think, like, unless governments and countries are able to say, and maybe we'll talk about this a little bit with what's happening with TikTok. I don't know if you've heard all of that stuff where governments are starting to say we're good. But like, there's getting a point when I think people are going to say Amazon has too much power, Facebook has too much power, Google has too much power. What are we going to do to stop them because they are growing at such an exponential rate? I think that is the big divide that's happening right now, is all of these little companies are going to go bankrupt. But all of these big tech companies are going to consume more. I mean, they're the ones that are going to buy all this commercial property once it's dipped down, and you say, well, they're the ones that don't need the commercial property anymore. They're going to buy it all up, and just like maybe McDonald's, Tesla, Walmart, Amazon, all these huge companies are going to have even more real estate now. I think they're going to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and so to not get on board now to these blue chips tech stocks that are huge already, I think could be a mistake. Now, buying at this very moment when they're at their all-time highs, I'm a little nervous doing that. But if the market dipped 10%, I would definitely be buying.
10%, what you're going for right now?
Yeah, if Amazon dropped 10% in the next month or over the next month, I've been waiting to get back into Amazon.
I can see Amazon because it kind of seems like COVID-proof.
They've already proven themselves.
Yeah,
they soared when everyone's stuck at home and they have to have their stuff delivered to them.
Yeah.
Amazon did really, really well. So I feel like.
But if you're saying that your fear for the future is that we're all going to say they're monopolies and they need to be split up, then you might not want to hold. Like I don't know what happens to.
I don't know. I think
Amazon.
You look at Microsoft dealt with this. AT&T dealt with this. Many companies dealt in the 80s and 90s with these. They broke off and then they became even bigger over time. So I don't know. Like I think betting against the economy right now is against these big companies is probably a bad thing. And if the Fed keeps printing money, maybe we can do this for a couple of years. I heard some people saying we could do this for 20 years. Maybe that's the rest of our lives, But at some point, it will get to the point when the dollar is not backed by anything substantial and people lose value in the dollar. And if you hold on to cash like you've been doing, if it's a 20-year period, then it doesn't really matter. But if it's 5 years, 2 more years, and the dollar now is depreciating more, you're going to be losing a lot of money.
But I got that gold, though. So I'm good to go.
I mean, gold's going up now, too. I mean,
thankfully, all of my losses in
Tesla,
and I did something else that was really stupid. Oh, the inverse ETF on the
You don't still have that, do you?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, gosh.
I've lost 66% of my money on that. I have made all of the money in my gold position, so I'm literally dead even to where I was at the beginning of the pandemic.
Yeah.
So it's not the end of the world. Zestoy says, bring back the old show. I've only shot one nude shoot since the lockdown. Do you know what that means?
Bring back the old show. Yeah, I don't know what that means, but we do have a nude Critique the Community going up any hour. Maybe it goes up tomorrow.
Okay.
So.
How did that go? Was that fun?
I think so. David and I did it, and I didn't tell him what. I was like, you want to do a Critique the Community? And then he sees the top image. He's like, what is this theme? And I was like, well. So it was interesting. David doesn't. I feel like you and I bicker about images a little bit more. David's just kind of like, I like the colors. And so we'll see how it goes, but that should come out tomorrow.
Leonard says, announced today, Tesla Model Y has a $3,000 price cut, and Model 3S and X have up to a $5,000 price cut.
What does that mean?
I need to look into that because I heard that about the Y. I need to look into the discounts on the 3. I haven't read about that. I mean,
does that mean if you bought a car, like Mike just bought a Model Y?
He just bought a Y, yeah.
Does he get $3,000 back, or he's screwed?
No, he's screwed. I mean, Tesla does this a pretty decent amount, and I think this points to a bad spot that Tesla's in. Now, every car company on planet Earth had massive losses during the pandemic, and Tesla did pretty well.
I think car sales were at an all-time low, weren't they? And used cars are worth more than. I've heard that used cars went up in value beyond. You could have bought a car a year ago, used, and then you could sell it now for more than what you bought it for a year ago.
And why is that?
I think people are just pinching their money. They're just saying hey, I don't want to spend anything on a new car, and
my uncle
That's what I've heard. Like I don't know if that's true for certain.
My uncle works in the car industry. He works with rental car companies and stuff. And he was saying there is about to be a huge collapse of the car market, new and used. But he said especially used. He says the used car values are going to plummet within the next year.
Just because people are driving less?
Or
because these rental car companies are going. I mean, rental car companies can't have that much inventory to.
He was just saying, I think so many people have extra cars, and the rental car companies had too many cars, and they have too much inventory at the new car dealerships and everything. And everyone's just in a pinch now to get their inventory out.
Yeah.
And so the used car market will be flooded. Now, that kind of goes against what you just said. It sounded like.
I mean, things can go really quickly. I assume if you're like, I just lost my job and I'm trying to, like my sister, I mean, I don't think she's thinking of getting rid of her car, but she bought a brand new car like 2 years ago and now she doesn't have a job. And she's like, that monthly payment is huge.
Yeah.
I could see where if you don't have a job, you're like, I got to get rid of my car.
Yep.
Well, there's more cars on the market, you know. But then I could also see where a lot of people were like, I'm just going to buy a used car because I don't want to pay for a new car. And then if you're trying to sell a car, maybe you could sell it for a little bit more of a premium because there's more people wanting used cars. But I don't know. I mean, it could go either way.
My uncle, he was like, wait a year and buy a used Tesla. They're going to plummet in value. And I said, I hope so, because that's what I want.
Didn't we say that motorhome sales are skyrocketing?
Yeah, motorhome sales are like at an all-time high. I've got a buddy who owns 5 of them, and he rents them out. And he was like, we've been killing it recently, renting them out, just because people are so sick of being inside. And then I was at the hot tub store today, and all of them were sold out. They were like, we've never sold so many hot tubs before, just because people are stuck inside.
Yeah.
So
it's wild. I'm going to Asheville tomorrow to do the trip you just did, I guess. And man, I was trying to find some cool cabin and with a view and like a hot tub. I would call these rental companies, and they were like, we are booked solid through July. Everyone's taking, isolation vacations.
Yeah.
Asheville's like the perfect place, which means is Asheville going to be the next hot spot?
Yep, and you're bringing that Rona with you.
I mean, you just brought it all up there to the worst places ever.
Glad you guys are well. Thank you so much. What the hell are those things on Patrick's legs?
These pants, they're like windbreakers, but they have these zippers, which always get me caught in TSA. They're always saying, like, they have to pat me down. But I don't know why I need a zipper right here in these weird places, but I like these pants. I wanted to wear pants while I was on TV tonight.
Are you sick? Maybe you've got the Rona right now. You're acting
No,
strange.
I just didn't want to show my legs all up in, this camera's a little more intimate.
But for 95 days in a row, it was fine?
Yeah, it was like fun back then.
This story, I'm sure I had COVID at the end of February, and I had it again a week or so again after a shoot. That sounds a little casual and untrustworthy. Anthony says, I haven't spent a day at home. I don't do any prevention except vitamins. I'm still COVID-free. I bet y'all aren't scared like you were. I mean, there is definitely something to be said about coming. It's peer pressure. You come back and you just see the way everyone else is acting, and you're like, oh, it must be fine.
Yeah.
I mean, in Puerto Rico, I'd be like riding my bike, and people would be like, I'd be coming by, and they'd be like lifting their masks because I'd be. And then the first thing I do when I come to the States is I start going to theme parks with 1 million people.
I mean, we were wiping down every piece of grocery.
Yeah.
We haven't wiped down anything here.
Right.
Like, I remember getting takeout, and it's like, going to the market, you're going up there, wear the mask, hand sanitizer. And now it's like we're getting takeout food. I mean, we're eating outside in the, like, open air, which I do think is safe. But, there's a couple times, like, I went to Panama City Beach a couple days ago. Oh, my gosh. The number of people on the beach there playing football, like, it felt like spring break MTV 1995, right? And I'm thinking, this is insane. So we order food to take out. I was just there for one night. And I have to go into the restaurant. In the parking lot of the restaurant, there is like a little girls cheerleading camp going on, and the kids are like throwing each other in the air. And I'm like, what in the world is happening? I go inside. Of course, no one has masks when you're inside a restaurant eating, but air's blowing everywhere. I'm seeing, it's like North Florida, right? Panhandle, Florida. What is the saying? Like the more north you go in Florida, the more south it gets, more southern it gets. It's like people are in camouflage overalls and cowboy hats and missing teeth and face tattoos. And I'm like, this is what Florida is like. This is what my life used to be like. And I'm going in there and I'm just thinking like, man, I do not want to be standing in here waiting for them to hand me my food, because who knows what's going on in here.
So maybe, I'm sure you've been a little bit safer than me when it comes to food and everything, but Katie and I have eaten inside maybe 3 or 4 restaurants. We've always tried to either get takeout or go to a place that has outdoor seating, but a few times we've been in a jam and we've had to eat inside. But I have been going inside a lot of places to get takeout food, kind of like Chipotle or Moe's or whatever. And so I don't know if you've seen people preparing food as much as I have. Because, I 3 times a day, I'd be going to a place like this and watching somebody make my food. And I have seen, I would say maybe the majority of the time, like when I was at this place called Bar Burritos, and they make burritos and stuff. And they're wearing masks, but this guy down here, he's got the mask below the nose, and this girl over here's got it under the chin. And then when they
behind the counter?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then when they come over to make your burrito, they like put it on, but they put the gloves on, and then they're grabbing the wet part of their mask and putting it on their face, and then they're grabbing the beans and the cheese, and then they're like grabbing it and like moving it, and then grabbing the pickles and not pickles, but whatever else you put on a burrito. And I'm sitting there watching them literally grab like a soaking wet Corona-filled mask and then grab my cheese. And I'm thinking, this has to be worse than without a mask. But then I think, maybe not. I mean, there's right there all day breathing and sweating, and all those droplets have to be going into the food. You just don't think about it. But
But we still don't know. Like, I'd be curious to know if you had a burrito with some coronavirus in it and you ate that burrito, how much of that is then going into your respiratory system versus being digested, and maybe it's not a big deal at all, because they keep talking about the viral load. If you're like in a hospital setting or you're working in a big office space and you're just breathing in the air over and over 8 hours a day, and there's a few people that have coronavirus, that might be worse than some coronavirus getting on your burrito and then you just eat it.
I know. I just remember, you remember when Fauci said we shouldn't wear a mask because the correct way to wear a mask is to put it on once and to never touch it and then immediately throw it away and get a new one, and like you can't have civilians wearing gloves because they think they're safe, but then they just cross-contaminate everything. And he was like, months ago, you don't need to wear a mask because the average person will touch the mask and then undo everything, like the whole point of wearing a mask. And so I'm watching people make my food, and they're literally doing it right there. Yeah. And of course, all of us, when we're at the restaurants and the theme parks and everything, we're wearing masks, but of course I'm touching masks. I haven't thrown away a mask ever. I'm probably using the same mask that I've used for the last 2 weeks now. So it's disgusting.
Kristen's telling me she did wipe down all the food.
She says that, but like it's not possible. It's not possible to wipe down everything. Like you literally can't wipe down like the food itself, and that's what people are touching. They're touching the mask and then making your food.
No, I'm saying from the grocery store. When you go to the grocery store.
But I'm sure you bought something and you didn't wipe it down, and then you put it in the fridge and she touched it and she touched the other thing that she did wipe down, and now coronavirus is everywhere.
What I need to do is I need to get that like material that you can then put the infrared light on and see.
Exactly.
And I should put it over a lot of the groceries, and then like a week later see how gross our house is.
Yes.
That'd be a really interesting
That is what you need to do.
So I have something here. I wound up getting one of these little oxygen tests. So I will tell you here in a minute.
Where'd you get that?
On Amazon. Man,
I
Amazon here, I can get stuff like 24 hours later. It's unbelievable.
I think it's just normal.
Yeah, but in Puerto Rico, it's like 3 weeks.
I think it's 5 weeks.
Yeah, sometimes it's like the next month. So, anything below 90 means you need to go to the hospital.
Okay.
And I've been hitting about 95 to 97. Okay. I just tested Katie. She was at a good 99. She had very, very healthy oxygen.
Good.
But what I wanted to do, and I've been reading a lot of people, there's been debates, people saying like, I don't want to wear masks because I'm breathing in all the CO2 and it's not healthy.
You're killing my immune system.
So what I was going to do is, I know that I'm at 98 right now. That's what my level is. So I was just going to wear a mask for like the next 5 minutes or so.
Okay.
And see if it actually changes.
Oh, I just went to 97. Proof.
Yeah, but this will fluctuate quite a bit. If this goes down to like below 95, 94, I've never had 94.
Then it's true.
Then it could be true.
Now it's 99. It's going up.
This probably is not accurate at all. But
All right. Next super chat. Fried pickles or drone photography? You pick, but speak on one topic.
I'm going to go with fried pickles.
Okay.
Fried pickles are pretty delicious. You know, you get the fried pickle. Here's a trick. You get pickles, and then you soak them in sugar water for like a week, and then they become these sweet pickles. And then you bread them and then fry them, and whew, they're good. That's a Southern Alabama
You've
thing.
actually made this, or you just heard about it?
I know a guy who makes these in Alabama, and they're pretty good.
Okay. I have had incredible fried pickles before. Drone photography, I'd actually like to talk more about drones themselves, because what's the new drone that came out? The Mavic Air 2, maybe?
The one that we showed the promo video?
Yeah.
Or I saw another one that's like for beginners that has like a cage around it. And all the whole promo video is them flying indoors and stuff.
Oh, I haven't seen that. But this is how out of the loop I am. I almost purchased, I saw this ad on Facebook for the Mavic Air Pro 2. And I'm like, hell yeah, this is what I've been waiting for. So I watched the promo for it. I'm like, looks awesome. And then right before I buy it, I'm like, I thought the one that was already out was the Mavic Pro Air 2. The Mavic Pro, I don't know. But the Pro 2. So I have to go to Wikipedia and look at the release dates. And sure enough, it's been out for a while. So people are now speculating that the Mavic Air Pro 3 might come out in the next few months.
What was the one that we just saw
That's
promo
not
on?
a Pro. That's just like their affordable one, but it's really awesome. But I just assumed I would want the Pro one with the slightly better camera and stuff. And I want to get, I'm tired of attaching my phone to the remote. I just want to get the remote with the screen built into it, you know, just have it all work. You just turn it on and it works. So I'm going to wait for that one. I'm going to buy that. And then, speaking of camera gear, I mean, like the crazy thing that's happened, we should have been making videos about this, but the Canon R5 and R6 have now been announced.
Yeah.
And I was going to buy one. You know, I was going to buy the R5 maybe, but I'm like, I don't really care about the 8K, but it'd be really cool to have a really high-end camera that can do good autofocus and everything. And then the R6 got announced, and I'm like, oh, this is perfect. It's better in low light.
What's the difference?
So I'm going to be wrong here, but I think the R5 is around 50 megapixels. It can shoot 8K video.
Okay.
And it can shoot raw video, which is pretty crazy. The R6, I believe, is $1,500 cheaper. So maybe it's $2,500 bucks. It's 20 megapixels, which is better for me. I'd kind of prefer that because it's better ISO performance. It shoots 4K. And then it's got in-body stabilization and lens stabilization. It's kind of like a big GH5. But then...
The R5 doesn't have the stabilization?
It does.
Okay.
Then I started reading about overheating issues, like the Sony all over again. So it's got the 25 or 20 or 30 minute record limit. And people are saying if you shoot too much or you're in a hot environment, it's going to like overheat and shut off.
What would happen if, a lot of people are like, oh, just don't shoot that much. But we do long, extended interviews.
What are we doing right now?
What would happen right now if we used an R6 or an R5 and we just have it running through HDMI? Sometimes we do the backup video recording.
Yeah.
We'd have to get up every 25 minutes, and then we would have to wait for it to shut down. You literally could not do a live stream with that if the HDMI signal is enough to overheat the camera, right?
Yeah, it's, and I understand that many people never shoot long videos like this, but I would say the majority of what we do is over 30-minute takes. The majority.
Yeah.
So it was just a total loss for me. I was like, all right, I'm not interested anymore. So I'll get them and review them from B&H. but I don't think I care to buy them anymore.
I am just so, and this is what's going to be difficult when we start the photography live show, is like I'm just so over the gear.
Yeah.
Like 8K sounds cool. Maybe I'd love that for some kind of time lapse or something,
Just
but
explode your computer.
yeah, I'm just like, I have enough trouble trying to film 4K footage, and I throw in high megapixel images into my videos all the time, and that destroys Premiere. And I'm just thinking, you know, like, I don't care. They do a good enough job. I need to get the new Nikon mirrorless because I always loved Nikon. I still to this day shoot on a D850. But I really need to play with that camera and see if I can get excited about that.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I'm just like, yeah. I read the D850 has better dynamic range than the R5 or R6.
Really?
It has like a third of a stop better dynamic range, and that the D750 is the same. So if you have a D750, which is now like 3 years old or something.
Yeah, what's a D750 cost? Like $800?
Yeah, and so I'm just like, what in the world is the point here? Like,
I mean, if you were
it seems
a
like it's just video.
filmmaker
Yeah.
and you were doing commercials and stuff, I bet it would be amazing. I mean, if you could shoot 8K raw with a little bitty body like that with amazing stabilization, it's incredible.
Yeah.
It's just for what we do. It's not the best. All right. Logan says, did you know there are now 8 continents on Earth?
I haven't heard this. Is there?
No, I haven't heard that.
What would be the 8th continent?
I don't know.
Did you hear that apparently Trump was trying to sell Puerto Rico in exchange for Greenland?
I read some headline that said he was considering selling Puerto Rico, and I agree that, you know, the liberal media is out to get him, but I read stuff like that and I'm like, that sounds legit.
Well, I saw
could see
a
him
meme
doing
that was like, does Trump know yet that Greenland does not have grass for golf courses? I was like, that's pretty good.
The virus sadly is going as I was told. Check the USA in 2 months. Yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see. We've definitely had, you know, we're having a spike in daily cases. Florida, dude, when we got to Florida maybe 2 weeks ago, somebody was like, Lee, did you know Florida had 10,000 cases in a day? And I'm like, no, you're mistaken. That's a month or whatever. And I look it up, and they had 10,000 new cases in a single day. Yesterday, 15,000 cases in a single day. It's pretty wild.
I've been saying to my friends and family, I've been saying, like, I think this is a good thing. Like, I think if young people are getting it, this is the other narrative that's kind of happening, is like maybe the death rate's not as bad because young people are now getting it, and the old people that are scared or the nursing homes have changed their protocols, maybe everything's better.
Yeah.
And so I'm just thinking, like, if I know Sweden said herd immunity is not the goal of staying open, but I'm just thinking maybe all these young people getting it and getting over it is like the best possible thing we could do. Imagine if our whole food industry already has it and it's over with for them in the next couple months. Then we can get back to going out and eating and feel pretty comfortable that at least the people preparing our food. I'm at 98. This thing hasn't changed at all wearing a mask. So I think this isn't like the most scientific test ever, but the idea that like you're taking away my clean air by making me wear a mask is kind of bonkers.
Dude, I
have a 66 beats per minute heart rate.
Is that good or bad?
Let
me get it.
I think that's pretty good for my age. I think you want to be below 70.
I have been much happier recently, like getting out of Puerto Rico and not reading the news every day and
Yes.
dwelling on it. I felt much better. I haven't used a computer in like 2 weeks. I've just been using like an iPad and stuff. And I will quickly check the news or like read the news on Reddit or whatever, but for the most part, I've just been out of it. But I've been on Facebook a few times a day, and the conspiracy theories in the dumb people, they seem to be accelerating. Have you noticed this?
No, I saw some video on Wayfair today about how.
That's what I was going to bring up.
What? Is this like a thing? I thought this was one random girl. Where did you see this video? Is this going viral?
Yes.
Huh. Okay.
I mean, it is the dumbest conspiracy I have ever
It has
heard
to do with
of.
like pedophilia and like
Yes, and
selling kidneys and something.
I haven't heard that part of it. Now, maybe I don't fully understand it. So feel free to correct me in a super chat, and I will apologize. But I read this article about this conspiracy theory, and this is the conspiracy theory.
You read an article. You didn't watch the video.
No, I didn't read it.
Okay.
I didn't see a video.
That's what I saw on Facebook was a video.
What was this video?
The video, and I just watched it. I was on the toilet, and then I gave up on it. But it was basically a guy showing an ad for Wayfair, and he used software to say that the certain books and things that were placed in this ad had been manipulated. And so it was like they took an interior shot of a bookcase, and the book titles had been changed so that they could put the book titles in that they wanted, right?
Okay.
Kind of makes sense. Maybe you would shoot this shot with blank books. But he's like, look at the title of this book, and he zooms in. He's like, I can't read it all, but I get most of the book title. So he goes to Amazon, he looks up what he can read, and there's like only one book that shows up, and it's a book about like harvesting human body parts. And he's like, that's really weird that Wayfair would intentionally put the title of that book in there. So then he starts going through like this rabbit hole on Amazon, and it's like the books are $950. It's like super expensive elite books. And then if you start reading the chapters, it has to do with like kids being kidnapped, and it goes into this like pedophilia, world. But I was like, this is ridiculous. I mean, I don't know. It seems like some of this could be true, but like if he just photoshopped a fake Wayfair ad, and you could identify that as being fake, then the whole conspiracy falls apart.
Well, do you know more to the conspiracy than just that?
No, that's all I saw.
Well, that at least is somewhat interesting. I'm going to keep looking at this, so I need to stop. So I'm at 98% O2, and I have a 70 heart rate.
Yeah, so you're pretty healthy.
All right, so this article said someone on the conspiracy subreddit noticed that there were these bookcases or like big bureaus or something that were very expensive. They were like 15 grand or something, whereas most of the stuff on Wayfair is like 1,000 or whatever. And then the names of the furniture, you know how each piece of furniture has some weird name?
Yeah.
The names of the furniture were female names. And so
like Rosanna or something.
Yes. From that, it's an expensive piece of furniture and the name is a girl's name.
Oh, I see where this is.
We think that when you buy that, they're putting child sex slaves in them and mailing them to you. Like this is what the elite are currently doing, and this is how you get your sex slaves is through Wayfair's online furniture sales department. And I am literally reading the comments on Facebook. This is like someone I know, and she's like, I'm literally crying. I can't believe this is real. And every comment is like, disgusting. I can't believe they would do this to children. Oh my God, this is despicable. I don't want to live in this world anymore. And I'm like, what am I missing? I read the whole article, and that's what the whole article said. Somebody pointed to this website and said, these are expensive and they're girls' names. And now everyone is saying that children are coming with them in there?
Well, there's one way to figure out if this is true or not.
You got to buy it?
We got to buy it. So we are going to start a super chat. And when we get $15,000, we will buy the bookshelf and put it here in the studio.
We could ship it to Puerto Rico.
I have to get a charger. This is about to die.
Okay.
Do you want to entertain them for a few minutes?
Sure.
And I need to get a drink too.
Okay.
You need anything?
No, I'm good.
I'm going to leave the mic here this time.
Thank you. Janine says, I had an elective procedure 2 weeks ago, and I was appalled by their COVID procedure. It was abysmal. If there was COVID in there, I would have it. Wait if you can on the colonoscopy. You hear that, Patrick?
Wait on it?
That's what she says. It's not worth it. It's too dangerous. Wouldn't that be hilarious if Patrick gave up his life being scared for this long, and then he literally goes to the doctor and they give it to him? That would be perfect. Zestoy says, I meant to bring back the old Daily Show. I haven't done shoot for months now. Well, mostly. So always watched your shows. Oh, I see what you're saying. You want us to do it daily. Well, thank you very much. Patrick is going up to Asheville in the next day or two, and then Katie and I are going back to Puerto Rico in a day or two. So once I'm back in Puerto Rico, we'll probably do one more show with me and my wife, and then I don't know what I could do. Like, I don't know if I'm capable of doing this show by myself. I don't know if that would be fun for me, or I could get somebody else in my neighborhood maybe to be a sidekick, just so you have somebody to argue with. Leonard says there are 300,000 cars from Hertz fleet on the market. That is pretty significant. So you could definitely see that would change the used car market a bit. Leonessa says she was sick for the week of the 4th of July, lost smell and taste. Oh, that's the big one. Dry cough, sore muscles, felt like a regular cold, tested negative while I felt sick, tested positive now that the symptoms are mostly gone. So when I was up in Asheville, I was at this mountain cabin and I was building fires each night and sitting next to the fire for hours, and I started getting a sore throat, which I've read everywhere is the first symptom for coronavirus. And after I've left the mountains, I have felt better, but I just have this little sore throat. And it's just always in the back of my mind, like, do I have it now? Am I infecting every person I come in contact with? It'll just drive you crazy. And that's why when I got my test results back, I was calling every day. I wanted to have the antibodies, but a part of me just wanted them to say, you have it right now. And I could go, fine. I'm going to hunker down. I'm going to get over this and just get on with my life, because I feel like this psychological warfare that's going on, for me at my age and my health level, is probably worse than the virus itself. Probably. Obviously, we've heard horror stories of it killing people, but for the most part, I don't think that's going to happen to me, so I just want to get it over with.
Brought you something.
Lady Lover. And it also just shook. Is it gonna?
I don't know. Now, I have to plug this in somehow without cutting off. Is there a light?
I could plug it in over here and just switch. You could have my iPad.
Oh, this may work. You reach that.
I just have to make sure that I'm unplugging something that we don't need for the live show. It's funny being back, and the internet here is so much worse.
It's despicable.
It's in your house, it's way slower because we used to have the business internet, but I guess you got rid of it to save money.
My Comcast bill is like $250.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
It's like all I want when I'm gone is internet for the studio.
Yeah, so what do you pay now?
Well, it was $50, and then now I see it's crept back up to $89, so I got to call them. But yeah, it's like
scam.
The internet is.
And then like my cell phone.
No, it's not.
It's not working?
Yeah, this was, man, I have a whole rant about how horrible this cable is.
Try
This is
to,
the
like,
worst
flip it.
designed cable ever.
What do you mean, lightning?
Yeah, this cable.
What are
How
you
many of
talking
you
about?
out there have to buy new Apple cables every single year? Like,
Oh yeah, well they make them fray. It's ridiculous.
and they don't make, like, this cable here is like a 10-foot cable, because I always want a cable that goes in like a hotel room and gives me power regardless of where the outlets are.
Yeah.
And my favorite cable is the micro USB cable. It's not designed as well, but you plug that into the wireless little charger, and then you put your phone on it, and it works every time.
Yeah.
But when you have to go back to this cable, it never works. Now there, it says not charging, but charging. I don't.
Oh, maybe your adapter's not powerful enough.
Oh no, I use this all the time. This is my
really?
main charger.
It says it's a supercharger. Don't know what to tell you.
So frustrating.
Lower your brightness. Maybe you can get an extra minute in there. But then our cell phone internet is so bad here. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, you hardly get cell phone service anywhere. People always ask me, what's the Wi-Fi in your house? And I'm like, why do you need Wi-Fi? You're on your phone, and it just doesn't work.
It's ridiculous that
How
it's
does
so
this
much
not
better.
work?
Zastoy says, I came back from Italy on February 18th. I was really sick for over a week, plus both girls I was there with, but nope, none of us got sick enough to be tested. What does that mean? None of us got sick enough to be tested. Can't you just choose to be tested?
No, a lot of places won't test you unless you have symptoms.
It's funny, the place that I went to would not test me if I had symptoms. They were like, we don't want anyone sick coming into our clinic. Only if you do not have symptoms. So, who knows? Leonard says, Lee's mask in tonight's stream thumbnail looks like used underwear. Well, it's funny you say that. Somebody said I look like a Dollar Tree belly dancer, and I thought that was a excellent roast. But I have other masks that I made out of new underwear. I bought the softest boxer briefs that I could find at Walmart, and I cut the thigh part out, and I would just put them on like a gaiter and wear them. And that worked for short periods of time, but after like 10 minutes to an hour, it sucked just having something tight on your face. It'd drive you crazy. So my hat design, I got Katie to put these buttons on the side of my hat, and then we cut old T-shirts to just kind of float on top of my face. And Universal let me in every day. I'd go with that mask on. Now, I did get called out in a few, like maybe twice, people walking around or like inside rides at Universal were like, sir, that is not a real mask. Here's another mask. You have to wear this. And I'd wear it for a little bit, and then I just put my hat back on, and no one else cared. But I have heard that Disney is super strict. Disney, like, a lot of people prefer wearing the gaiters or just, like what you wear to snow ski or whatever. It's just like a cylinder that you pull down and put it. Disney will not allow that. So you have to wear a real mask.
Yeah, my dad, when I got home, my dad was saying that there's been studies that show that wearing surgical masks, way before COVID, did not actually affect doctors giving disease to patients or patients giving disease to doctors. I don't know. There's a study that I've emailed myself on one of the PubMed sites, and I haven't had time to read it. But it does seem like the virus itself is too small. Like, it goes through all these materials. But if it's riding on water droplets, then it seems like maybe what you have is good enough to stop the water droplets, But what
I'm sure there's levels.
My dad was trying to say that, like, if you wear the mask and you cough, it propels behind you. I have not been able to find a single video where it's like every video I see of people coughing with the masks on, there's nothing coming out the back. And remember we were saying it had to be form fitted and all this? Yeah. But the one you have is ridiculous. But I do feel like if it's here and you cough into it, it's stopping the majority of the water droplets going forward, right?
Yeah, I think it's better
than
nothing.
So it seems like it would be good enough.
Well, Universal thought it was for the most part.
It's good enough, but none of it's really doing anything. Like, that's another confusing part of all of this is what are the masks actually doing?
See, I would say 50% of my Facebook friends post this crap about how, like, masks don't work at all. And have you seen the meme going around where it's like the picture of the surgical mask box and it says, this mask will not protect you from COVID-19, blah, blah, blah. Yes, like we know that. There are certain masks that are made to have some static charge that like can attract viral particles and trap them from going into your lungs. These masks don't do that, but I think everybody understands the mask is just stopping water droplets from flying all over the room as much. It's not stopping it 100%, but maybe it's stopping it 90%. And if 2 people wear a mask, that's enough to really lower the chances of getting it. For the first time ever, Katie and I ate indoors at a restaurant here in Charleston, which was probably the most dangerous thing we've done anywhere.
Where do you eat?
Rue de Jean.
Okay.
But we were like in a table off by ourselves, like in a room by ourselves almost. But for the first time ever, I saw a girl at the, and you'll remember me bringing this up time and time again during the regular coronavirus journals, like how are restaurants going to work if you have to wear a mask? This chick was wearing a mask, pulling the mask down, shoveling food into her mouth, and then raising the mask back up to chew. I'm like, if you're going to do that, why are you even in here? Get out of this building. It's crazy. And she was sitting at the bar. So she was the closest to everyone. No one was social distancing around the bar. She's looking right at a bartender who's got the viral load from every customer to come in that restaurant. It was crazy.
I just, in the chat, put a link to an archive paper about masks. I haven't had a chance to read it, but I see a lot of people making this argument that the masks don't protect you at all.
I think when the mask warning says it doesn't protect you at all, I think it just means that it's porous enough that the virus could get through.
Right.
But it has to do something.
Yeah, it prevents the virus from being projected far away.
Yeah. So that seems reasonable, and I think that's good enough reason to wear a mask when you're indoors with other people.
I think what my dad was saying is, what happens though, especially a lot of us who are wearing the same mask over and over again, what happens when you cough multiple times and then the water droplets evaporate and now the virus is in the mask itself? And then as you're breathing in and out of that mask, are you able to push the virus into the air? You know what I mean?
That seems pretty...
A lot of doctors, they're forced to take their gloves and masks off after every patient. I think my dad supposed to change it every 30 minutes, something like that. And so...
Wait a minute. 30 minutes even if you're with the same customer?
I think that's what he said. So I don't know. There's probably like the Dental Association and different medical practitioners. They will have like a formal, this is what you should do. Now, whether or not doctors do that or not is another thing, but masks are not supposed to be used for like hours or days. Like I'm still using the same mask I bought in Puerto Rico.
You got to scoot over a little bit towards the middle, Patrick. We got to center up better.
No. Well,
got this center line right here.
my iPod's about to die.
That's
Thanks,
iPad.
Apple.
World Traveler says pooping on shoes. Do you know what that means?
Pooping on shoes.
I don't know what that means. Leonard says, I bought a Mavic Air 2, $789 or $988 for the Fly More bundle at the end of May, and it's pretty good, having never flown a drone before. What do we own?
I don't know, Mavic 1?
Maybe it's just the Mavic Air.
Mavic Air.
It's amazing. I mean, it's just incredible that that's a product that normal people can buy. I told you 2 months ago it's engineered. It's hitting the oldest first. You wonder why I use a silly name. Dude, this guy, I don't know what he's like. He was just saying that he had it twice. Is this the same guy? And now he's saying it hits the oldest first. Are you really old? I don't know what he's talking about. Milcom said, Lee, how did your underwear mask work at the theme park? I just explained that.
Yeah, didn't you just read that?
I think we're a little behind on the super chats. Wyatt says, another video showed that when you put those items in a cart, that it auto-fills the name of a missing person to show who you're buying. So he's talking about the Wayfair thing. Okay, so I am happy that at least there's something somewhat interesting about this, more than the name of the product.
Here's what I want to know, is why in the world would a Fortune 500 company make this system on their back end when they could just make another system that uses Bitcoin or encryption or something to where it's like in the dark web where, like, why would Wayfair?
Yeah, and
it's like Target. Target's like, you know what? We should make these hidden products.
I also want to know what the missing person's name is. It's like Katie is the and they're like, there's a girl named Katie right now who's missing. Oh my God, no!
Well, I shot a wedding for one of my high school friends in Aruba. It was one of my last weddings I ever shot before I retired. And his wife works for Wayfair in Boston. So I'm sure she would be pissed if I text her out of the blue. Because she's probably getting a ton of emails and messages about this, you know. But she works for the company up there in their corporate headquarters.
Really?
Yeah.
She traffics children as sex slaves.
I know. That's why they had their wedding in Aruba.
And she's your friend?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's my friend. I don't know her all that well, but.
So maybe he doesn't know what his wife is doing.
Maybe he knows exactly what. Maybe they're in on it. He does golf a lot. He's like a semi-professional golfer.
That sounds like an elite person to me.
I mean, maybe he's an elite person. I don't know.
Touche Film says, hope you guys join the Zoom for 2 to 3 minutes. Yeah, maybe we can try. I don't know what the heck. I guess I can probably figure it out on this computer. This is the first time I've ever used this computer. Hey, we're caught up on super chats. Cool. Anything else that you want to talk about?
Man, there's been so many things. Now I gotta like figure out what they actually are.
What's the story with your parents? Like,
Yeah, so I went to Alabama and I wanted to be quarantined before I saw them because my dad's still working, and so there's a very good chance he would come down with COVID before I ever would. But I wanted to know for certain that I wasn't the one that gave it to him, right? So I go to Alabama, and it's just weird, man. Like, I'm from a town, Enterprise, Alabama. It's like, maybe it's 20,000 people. But we get there, and nobody's wearing masks. You go into Publix, and it's like 10% of people have masks. It's one of those where I'm wearing the mask, and I feel like people are looking at me like, you damn liberal, you know? But, you know, I'm just driving around. Like, I show Kristen my hometown.
was she impressed?
Man, she was like, wow, that high school is really nice. We have the largest high school in the whole state.
Was it rebuilt because of a tornado or something?
Tornado destroyed my high school, killed a bunch of kids, and then they killed like 8 kids. President Bush went down there, and then they rebuilt everything. And we now have like our new high school. It's like a 3-story. I mean, it looks like a college campus. It's bigger than any college building on most campuses. I think even Alabama. Our high school is bigger than any one building. It's ridiculous. So anyway, I'm driving around, and she sees this donut shop, which I think is the featured image of this video. Yeah. And she's like, oh, let's go get donuts. So we pull in there, and as we pull in, we see my dad and my brother-in-law in the donut shop. Like, that's how small of a town it is. And so, like, they're not wearing masks. They're inside buying donuts. There's, like, one person working at the donut shop.
Now, why aren't they wearing masks?
My dad is just like, I don't care.
Oh, okay. So he just doesn't care?
He just doesn't. Well, he does, like, in his office. But
okay,
I think he's so isolated, except, like, he probably would wear the mask maybe in Lowe's, like in a big department store type thing. Okay. But, you know, the one person selling donuts in this tiny little shop, he's not really that worried about it. But it just made me think, like, walking around Alabama, I'm like, one, I'm probably the biggest risk for that town because I'm one of the few people that's probably traveling quite a bit and then coming into their little small population.
Yeah, that's true.
But when I'm going to these towns that are so isolated, especially the back, like we drove through the back country of Georgia, and you're going through these little towns where I'm like, man, there's like like everyone here is here. You know what I mean? And it made me think, like, are these little towns of 1,000 people, a couple thousand, maybe even 20,000 people, are these towns like so isolated that like maybe they'll never get it? I think Coffee County, I think it's had 300 COVID cases. I don't know they've had a single death. Maybe they've had one person die.
And I would imagine there's a lot of morbidly obese people in
you go
your
to
town.
you go to Walmart there, and it's like Kristen was like, "This is the best people watching ever." Panama City Beach and just Alabama in general. It's like it is crazy the stuff you see, and we're seeing the Trump, flags with the Rambo that we showed on our show. Like those are being sold on the street corners in these small towns in Alabama. And I'm like, there's, I saw one of like, you remember the little cartoon character like pisses on stuff?
Yeah, Calvin.
Is it
Hobbes, right?
Calvin and Hobbes? Is it that character with the backwards hat on?
I think so.
And I see that with like Pelosi, and I'm like, man, I'm in the South for sure. But anyway, the whole point was just that I left thinking like, man, there's a good chance that some of these towns, maybe they never will be affected by COVID because they're just so small. And they don't interact with that many people, It's not like New York or, even Charleston. I'm going out here and there's people in the bars, and we had to pass a mandate that said no more bars are done at 11 p.m.
What?
Like it doesn't. And on one hand, it feels like that's not really going to do a whole lot. But on the other hand, it's like, were people out drinking till 2 before this had to be done? They had to pass this just to stop.
I'm sure. I mean, that was the previous mandate, right?
The 3 bars in my hometown, I think they're already shut down. Like they're not. I don't know. It was weird going back to a place so small and seeing how they're acting. And, it's easy to understand why people think it's a hoax or why it won't affect them when maybe logistically it won't affect them,
Well, and when you are surrounded by 100% of the people you're surrounded by at most think it's a hoax, paid for by the Democrats to get Trump out of the office, and at the least, just it's overblown. It's not that big of a deal. and no one wears a mask, then yeah, it's just easy to. You don't want to be the guy going into the donut shop and the only one all day wearing the mask. Like, you look insane.
Yeah.
You know? So it's been very interesting going from Puerto Rico back to the United States and then me hitting up all the hot spots like I have.
I feel like in our neighborhood in Puerto Rico, though, I have felt, maybe it's because we're so connected with the WhatsApp groups, but I have felt more people being like, who is this not wearing the mask, and reporting people. Like, it feels more like that there than it does anywhere I've been so far.
Yeah.
Like, the worst I've had has been in Alabama and Florida, where they're looking at you like you're the weirdo getting the takeout food while we're all in here eating.
Yeah.
But they're not judging me more than that, whereas in Puerto Rico, it felt a little bit like...
They were like calling security on people.
Yeah, it felt a little more like that, which is weird. And maybe that's just the neighborhood that we live in. I don't know, but there was definitely more paranoia. But, maybe this is going to get way worse here. And, I talked to Brian Young, who's a friend of ours, who he works for Airbnb, but he also has a lot of friends in the food and bev world. And he was just saying that, like, back when you guys were doing your show, we didn't care at all. But the second that I flew here, he's like, man, for the last week, it's like serious now.
So, I mean,
we are all...
This is what is so ironic about the whole situation with us. I mean, we sat in Puerto Rico, which was probably one of the safest places in America. And we locked down and we were terrified while everyone else in the States, besides like New York, everyone else in the States, our hometown here in Charleston, no one cared at all. The smart thing to do would have been to come to Charleston then. There were fewer cases. It was totally safe. There was no mandates. We could have gone on the boat. There was just a lot to do. But instead, we decided, no, we need to be safe. We need to stay here locked down. This is the safest place. I mean, we had so many of these conversations. And then they start to slowly lift the lockdown in Puerto Rico, and we're like, all right, we got to get out of here. We're going crazy. And we literally come back at the worst possible time.
Yeah.
It's like we did the dumbest thing you could do in terms of the virus.
Maybe, but like, I don't know. I keep going back and forth and being like, I think that pool back in Puerto Rico is a lifesaver. Because if I was stuck in this house, like, I love this house, but when I'm here, my AC breaks and I got to get that repaired, and I see little things that are broken, and we had an electrical strike, so I'm having to, like, I'm just constantly working on stuff here, which I like. Like, I enjoy working on things, but I'm not doing a lot of the work I should be doing. Whereas in Puerto Rico, I feel like we were knocking out, we did a show for 90 days.
No, but it's not like business related. We were just doing it to do it.
No, but I feel like, I don't know, I feel happier now. I feel like I have less stress. I'm eating worse. I'm probably gaining weight.
Yeah, I'm getting
But
fat.
like, I'm eating good food, and like, I feel like I'm in a better place. But if I had to be really locked into a home, I would much rather be in my home in Puerto Rico than I would be here.
I agree with that. I just feel like there's a little bit more freedom in the U.S. If nothing else, you just like get in your car and drive to another state and get out of here.
Yeah. You just stayed at your dad's place in Nashville. Like, that's nice. Puerto Rico, it's like, if we leave, there's only so far we can go. It's going to feel exactly the same. And then we got to pay money to stay somewhere. Or at least here in the States, friends and family that live in other places. Like, I would love to be in the mountains or something. I mean, I'm going to be tomorrow, but...
Brad Fogel says, you're going to want to join Zoom. I'm setting up a GoPro Hero 8 with a new webcam beta software for Zoom. Man, I don't want to miss that, Brad. Leonard says, what happened with the yacht purchase?
What has happened with that?
I'm trying to remember. Did we talk about the first boat that fell through? And then we talked about the second boat.
Yeah.
So...
The big issue with the second boat is that it's not getting up to, like, there's a speed that it can get to on paper, and we were told that's like with an empty gas tank, and it's with no one on the boat. But then there's a regular cruising speed that it should be able to get to, and it's several knots or a lot of knots.
I don't think any of that really matters as much as the RPMs of the engine. I think the engine is supposed to max at 3,000 RPM, and as I understand it, one of the engines does, and one of the engines maxes at 2,500. And when you turn them both on, the second one limits itself to 2,500 to
to be even.
be proportional. So the guy who's the expert on the engines is trying to do these tests to figure out why it is. He claims that it could be one of 2 or 3 things, and each one of those 2 or 3 things is a $15,000 repair, which sounds insane, except that this boat is ridiculously expensive. That's why we're going in with so many people to buy it. And so we're trying to decide now, like, I think in the next day or 2 it's getting pulled out of the water for a hull check and a prop check, something like that.
No, they checked the prop, and the prop is the right size. They were worried the prop was like a wrong size.
Okay.
So I don't know. And then there's like water in one of the fuel lines or engines, but like they're trying to use a material to get that out.
Okay, I don't know if I even
There's
read
all
that.
these little things, and like on one hand, it's like I hope these aren't problems because I want to buy the boat. But then on the other hand, I'm like, even if these aren't real problems, these will be our problems eventually. Like this is all the stuff that every boat owner. It's not like, oh, we're buying a lemon. It's like you could buy a perfect boat, but eventually this is the fate of all boats.
That's what's so scary.
But because we're buying it with 4 to 6, the way that we're buying it, it's like we're also limiting the amount out of pocket that we will have to pay to repair these. So you divide 15,000 by 4 or 6 people, depending on.
Well, I think this should come off the sale price.
Right. That's the advantage of doing all this negotiation now.
The problem is that the other people that we're going in with buying this boat, I think they have way more money than we have.
Yeah.
So to them, it's nothing, and they're like, just buy the boat. I just want a boat already. And I get that. I want a boat too. But I'm very fearful that we're all bummed out that the first boat fell through. We're all sick and tired of being locked down for 4 months. And so at this point, I mean, it's just human nature. At a certain point, you just are like, screw it. Just give me the boat. Like, I'll pay extra.
I'm buying the R5. Give me the camera.
Exactly.
I need it.
I don't care if it overheats.
I don't care if I'm not able to leave my house and even do a photo shoot. Give me the camera.
Exactly. And I don't want to make a huge financial mistake. I mean, I feel like the boat will be a financial mistake, but I don't want to make a huge financial mistake right before a world economic collapse where I think this boat could potentially drop in value by 50% in the next few years. I mean, our thought is that maybe we'll keep this boat for years, and that instead of selling it to some other person, maybe we just keep it in our neighborhood
and we'll sell a position.
Sell our shares as people move in and move out and stuff, and it'll just be kind of like a shared boat. But I don't know. I don't know what to think. But I still own my jet ski here in Charleston.
Yeah, so, did you go out on that today? Mm-hmm. Katie was like, "Oh, he's on the jet ski," and I was like, "Damn, that sounds like fun."
Yeah, it's been awesome. So
I've been taking the boat out. The Freedom Boat Club here in Charleston is the greatest decision I've ever made in my life, right? It's so great that I'm still paying for it even when I don't live here because I don't want to give it up and like not be able to get back into it.
Yeah.
Because you have to pay a lot of money to get in initially. And I made that decision at Ritz Camera. I was like, I'm going to take my poor Ritz Camera paycheck and I'm going to buy into this boat club, and it was the greatest thing ever.
Yeah.
And so I've taken the boat out a few times, but the problem is I'm taking it out with like girls who don't know how to drive a boat. Mm-hmm. So I take the first time I took the wakeboard out there, and I was like, man, I'm going to wakeboard. It's going to be great. And then like my sister and Chris, like nobody feels comfortable driving the boat, and I'm like, I don't want somebody who doesn't know how to drive a boat at all pulling me, because if something really goes bad, then like I'm in trouble.
Yeah, you don't want to get run over.
Yeah, and I don't want something to happen to the boat, and then they're like, who was driving the boat, you know? But I'm like, if I have a guy or if I have you on the boat, then it would be perfect. But now I'm about to leave tomorrow, and then you're about to go back to Puerto Rico, so like that didn't work out. So I got to get back out on the boat. And
well, you know, I've been telling Katie and I were just going to go to Universal and then go back to Puerto Rico. And I'm like, no, we got to go to Charleston. I've been paying for this Freedom Boat Club membership for the last year, and I haven't used it.
Yeah.
We got to go on the boat. And so I had a boat reservation last week, and like a hurricane or tropical storm.
Yeah, there was like a storm that like built up.
So I haven't even gotten to go on it. So I keep thinking.
There's so many boats. They have like 22 boats now.
That's amazing.
They have a sailboat that's always available. I think now you have to have some sailing certificate.
I gotta do
Before we would take this sailboat out, we don't know how to sail at all, but we knew how. Like it's not
We watched
that
a
hard.
YouTube video.
Yeah, we could go where we needed to go, but it's not like we're Peter Hurley or anything. And now they have, I think, updated the sailboat, but they require that you have like training to actually take it out. And because of that, the sailboat's available every single day because nobody has the
that would
training.
be amazing.
We need to learn. I mean,
You don't even have to pay for gas. It'd just be totally free to take it out.
and it's so fun and relaxing, and like everyone loves going on the sailboat.
Yeah.
So we need to get that done.
Gotta figure that out. MM says use the boat to run drugs back and forth from Miami.
Hey, you're thinking the same way we are.
That's definitely a possibility. We were thinking about potentially buying a boat in Miami and driving it down, and I tried to crunch the numbers of how much it would cost in fuel.
Do they even do that, or do you put it on a barge and just ship the boat back? Do you pay to put the mile? Because you're not only paying the gas to do that trip, but you're also paying the depreciation and putting that many hours on the engines.
Yeah,
I don't know that that's the smartest thing to do. I think you would just try to ship the boat if that's a thing.
Maybe that's so expensive too. But I think the gas alone was like $15,000 to drive the boat from Miami to Puerto Rico, and I was like, I don't know if that sounds that fun to me. You know, I like the idea of having this big boat so that we can get to the Virgin Islands. But I want to get to the Virgin Islands to scuba dive and to snorkel. I don't necessarily like just driving for days in a boat, you know?
Yeah.
I want to get off the boat and do stuff. So
that was one thing, like, Kristen loves this show. It's called, like, Under Deck or something.
Oh, my brother told me about this.
It's the worst. Dude, they're the worst shows. They're so boring. It's like it's reality TV on a boat.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care. If it was about how boating works and stuff,
Yeah.
and it was educational, I'd love it. But anyway, I learned that. I don't even know if I learned it from the show, but I learned that a lot of people. I always thought people who own these mega yachts and they just live on the yacht all the time. They don't do that at all. They have a crew that moves the boat to the location they want to be at. You want to go to Charleston? Move my boat to Charleston, and then I will fly there when the boat's there, and then I just have my personal apartment in the marina.
And I might be on it for a day.
Yeah, and then when I want to go to Spain, you guys take the boat all the way over to Spain, and then I'll fly over there and hang out. I just was always under the impression that people like lived on the boat and they were like out at sea for 2 weeks, and now we've pulled into Spain and we're in Barcelona and we're gonna like party and whatever, but like that's not what it is at all.
No, and my uncle works in the mega yacht industry, and my brother worked for him. My brother, the reason he told me about that show, he was like, Lee, it's like this show. I think it's just everybody having sex with each other. It's like the captain has sex with all the...
Well, maybe some of the crew is trying to have sex with each other. A lot of it is drama. It's like the Housewives show.
Okay.
It's like the crew is all pissed off because so-and-so didn't make the desserts right, and then the other girl's sleeping in, and the guy's sick. And then so-and-so's flirting with the guests, but it's really dumb. Like, I don't like it at all. And then the captain, he's like mad at everybody because this is a job and a business, you know. And
okay, well, that sounds much more professional than what my brother said. So my uncle paints mega yachts. He painted the one of the Fertitta brothers that owned the UFC. I think since selling the UFC, he sold his boat and bought a bigger one. But my brother was working on this project, and he explained to me that to paint these boats, and you have to paint them often. It's like every 2 years or something you have to paint these boats. You have to pull them out of the water for months, if not a year, to paint these boats inside and out.
Every other year,
It was something crazy like that.
Do you have to do that with normal boats?
I don't
right?
think so.
Can you just wash them? Like, why does a mega yacht need to come out of the water and be painted? But like the boat we're gonna buy, doesn't?
I think one is just a level of like excellence.
Yeah.
Where the mega yacht owners want their boats to look brand. I mean, well, here's my story. So my brother was saying that they have to pull these boats out and they move them indoors into this area where they can be sanded and
like a
painted
hangar or something.
Yeah. And the captain and crew continue to live on the boat. The whole, like if it's a year out of the water, they live on the boat for a year, and all they do every day is clean the boat. Every day.
Why do you have to clean the boat when it's in a hangar?
Long.
You would think it'd be fine there.
Got to get the dust off, nonstop, forever.
Oh my god.
That's all they do. They clean it. And my brother was just saying, he was like, Lee, they all have sex with each other. And he was like, there's a hierarchy, and the captain gets first pick, and then it goes down from there. And he was like, it is the most messed up system, but he's like, I've worked on many boats, and they all had the same hierarchy. So he was telling me, he was like, the show, it's real. It is a
Maybe
real.
there's some, I mean, when that show's on, like I have to get back to work. Like there's only so much reality TV I can handle, and that show is one. I just never connect with it. I'm like, I like boating, I love travel and all that, but when I see that show, I'm like, this is really dumb.
Oh, I'm sure it's dumb. I have no doubt it's dumb.
It could be done so well, though. It could be all about the locations, and they could give you education about where they're at and why they have to do the things they do. But it's all this like drama stuff. I'm like, who has time for this?
Anything else you have to talk about?
Not really. I'm getting a little hungry. I didn't really have dinner, and I think our dinner tonight is the fourth meal. I think we're gonna go to Taco Bell and get
The Taco Bell by your house. I used
the
to eat
worst,
there all the
but
time. Just
maybe
'cause
we'll
it's
go to
so
West
close.
Ashley and just.
It's so disgusting. You go in there, and the people that go in there are the dirtiest looking people, and then the people working there are disgusting.
Okay, so I'm going to West Ashley then. I'm gonna
I
go a
mean,
little further. I'm gonna take a 5-minute drive.
I don't know that it's going to be much better, but it has to be better than
There's
what's
one
right
right
by
over
your
in
house.
James Island too, by the gym I used to go to.
That one's always been pretty clean.
Yeah, I might go there. Get a little chalupa.
Doritos Locos.
That sounds really good.
I know you're probably not interested at all, but before I came to the States, a buddy of mine in Puerto Rico was leaving for a few months because his wife was pregnant, so he might be gone for 4 or 5 months, and he had a PS4. And I was like, hey, let me borrow that PS4, because there's a few games that I've been hearing about for years that I wanted to play on the PS4. And the new one that just came out was The Last of Us 2. Do you know anything about this game?
Yeah, weren't you playing this on your PC or that was on the PS4?
That's probably on the PS4.
Yeah, you were showing me that and it looked incredible.
Yeah. So I was playing The Last of Us 2 in Puerto Rico before I left, and I got like 10 hours into the game. I think it's almost like a 30-hour game. Well, that game blew my mind so bad that I just became obsessed with it. And I'm like, I got to look into this. Like, I'm watching all the behind-the-scenes videos. And then I realized I just need to play the first one. And the first one's pretty old. It's 7 years old. So David, our main manager here, he has a PS4 he doesn't even use. So I was like, give me the PS4.
Is PS4 old? Is there like a PS5 now? Or?
PS5 comes out in a few months.
Okay.
So I got The Last of Us 1, and it's on the PS4 that's... Actually, it's not, because I beat it and deleted it and got something else. But The Last of Us 1 is the greatest video game I have ever played in my entire life, and I cannot recommend it enough.
It's better than the second one.
Well,
the new one.
I mean, the new one has better graphics, and like there's more going on. I don't know. I've only played a third of the second one. But the first one is so amazing. You got to give it a try, man. Like, I don't know if you can give it a try here. Maybe when you come back, if you'll be here a little while.
It's better than Mario 64?
I mean, Mario 64 is awesome. But
or Zelda, whatever that one was.
Carno of Time or
yeah,
something?
That one.
I have always wondered to myself, why don't they make video games that are like movies, as good as movies? Because, you know, you play a lot of video games and it'll be a good graphics and stuff, but then the voice acting, it's kind of goofy, or it'll be serious at parts and they'll make it really goofy at another part or whatever. The Last of Us is the first video game I've ever played where I'm like, this is better than the majority of movies. The acting is that good, the story is that good, and I'm sitting
And it's
there
fun to play
playing
because I watched you play for like 20 minutes, and maybe I hit a real big dialogue section, but I was like, this
There's
isn't
a lot
enough
of
for me. But I know how these games are. You get invested, and you're
Yeah.
like, wow, this is incredible. Like, I'm waiting for the story reveal and everything. But
Yeah.
what I watched you, like, I like the 3D thing that you had me play.
Half-Life Alyx.
Yeah, I felt like that was more exciting
Yeah.
than whatever Yes, the professional solution.
So maybe we're back now. Literally, OBS just stopped accepting audio, and I reset OBS and it started working. So I don't know if you remember, Patrick, but I was starting to think that maybe we should go the OBS route back in Puerto Rico.
Of course.
And like get rid of all the
just
work I had done.
redo it all.
And just redo it all. And that situation that just happened there.
Because OBS just like dropped the audio.
Yeah,
some reason?
for absolutely no reason.
And you had to reset OBS. It pauses the video for a second.
Yeah.
Huh.
So, yeah, I think I did it the right way. All right. Anything else?
No,
you
I
have to
gotta go
say?
get some double-decker tacos and some chalupas.
Man, I might go with you.
They're saying we should Uber Eats it, but that seems like it's gonna take too long.
Yeah.
Like if you have to take a questionable establishment like Taco Bell and then pair it up with another questionable establishment like people driving you food and combine them, the rate of failure is very, very high.
The rate of like cold food or wrong food is high. But
Nobody
also,
wants cold Taco Bell.
Getting
like,
the
definitely.
Rona, it goes up exponentially as well. It's like now you could get it from the Taco Bell employees.
And part of the best experience of Taco Bell is like pulling out of the drive-thru into a parking lot spot and then eating right there in the car. Like that's the experience. So I don't know that I want to be in the house and be like, oh, the Taco Bell's shown up and it's all soggy and cold and it was an hour from now. I mean, I'm not going to eat at midnight.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
All right, I'm going to go with you. All right, guys, thank you for watching. I don't know if we're going to
We're alive.
Yeah, we are alive at the moment. I might have it. I got a little tingle in my throat. And Leonessa has it. And
Dude,
she's in
everyone
Charleston.
thinks they have it. Everyone's like, dude, Kristen's like, I'm feeling a little sick, and your wife's like, not. Everyone's like, it's all in your head. I mean, I'm not saying it is all in your head, but it's very easy to be in your head.
I know. All right, guys. Thank you for watching. Maybe we'll see you in a few days.
We got a
Who
couple
knows?
videos coming out this week.
There we go.